not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. Been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Welcome in. It's another weekend, another chance for you to learn with the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. We'll be talking to Blake coming up in just a couple of seconds, but you're going to hear a lot of stuff over the next 30 minutes you're going to want to know more about, and if you do want to know more, it's really easy to get those answers. All you need to do is call Blake at Sloan Realty Group. The phone number is 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. You can go on to the website as well, which is blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. If you missed that contact info, we'll give it to you several more times over the next 30 minutes to make sure you know how to be informed and how to get in touch with Blake Sloan. But without further ado, let's welcome him in, Blake Sloan.
What is up? Got a awesome show. Actually, I was supposed to be out of town, but I made sure that we didn't go out of town. I was like, Dave, we got to record this and do this. So I pushed my going out of town back so we could be here just for you guys because we got such awesome listeners. We've been doing a ton of business lately with everybody who's listening to the show. So we got a bunch of cool stuff today we'll go over. We have the final numbers in finally for the nation for 2015. It takes a little while, obviously, because they have to compile all those areas. So we have the National Association of Realtor numbers. We haven't covered this stuff yet in a previous show. It's got a lot of different things like new homes versus resales, how many days, basically on the market, all kind of different stuff we'll cover. So we'll go through that. Also go into a quick recap of local numbers again. I was told the actual new numbers should be out later this afternoon or tomorrow. I checked with my source, so we'll have that for you next show for sure. Also going to dig in today, how many days it's taken right now to close a loan? That's a great question because a lot of people still are thinking it's 30 days, and it's definitely not 30 days anymore. That's a thing of the past. So we'll talk about what that is, how you need to prepare for that, either a seller or a buyer, right, because it matters, and that's very, very important. Also go over some success stories. Lately, we've had also with some success stories from listeners and some really cool stuff and some shout outs to a couple people who referred us to our listeners, and that's something I really need you guys to do out there, to refer us people that you know who need our services, because I hear nightmare story after nightmare story over and over and over, and thankfully we're getting referred to people that you know. You guys are listening, so I need you to really take some action and refer us to anybody, your neighbors, friends, whatever it may be. We'll talk about that as well. And we'll also dig into a big problem we're having right now with inventory. And we're having that in different parts of the marketplace, and so we'll cover that. And if we have time, which we hope we'll talk about some top mistakes that sellers are making right now in the marketplace.
Okay. A lot of stuff to get to, as always, during the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. But if you're just tuning in for the very first time, we know we have different listeners throughout the weekend, so that's great. We appreciate you listening. But if you don't know about Blake, here he is. In a nutshell, he's been called the Real Estate Whiz Kid. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, on NBC TV. Speaking of TV, on Fox and Friends as well, several times. Realtor magazine, many other national publications. You've heard the personal endorsements on this station from Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity. One by itself would be nice. Put them all together, it is unprecedented, especially in our vicinity here. Now, every week also, we've got to go over and recap some of Blake's trademark systems that he's developed to help both buyers and sellers here in the market. And so we just want to reiterate those and go over those again, Blake.
Absolutely. So the one thing I made a promise to say it every single time. I even say it face-to-face when we meet with clients because it's so important. The single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller or a home buyer is determined by one thing only. And that's the agent that you choose, period. That's it, right? The agent or the strategy, the team, whatever it is, that's what determines failure or success. In our marketplace, nearly 50% of the homes fail to sell, which is why a lot of people don't like real estate agents, right? They still think they're commodities, and it could not be further from the truth. Like we always say, if you're charged with a crime that you didn't commit, do you want just a public defender, or you want that, bad to the bone attorney who knows exactly what they're doing? It's the same situation here, and it's actually more important because it's your largest asset, and most people don't ever get charged with a crime they didn't commit, right? So that's kind of the important thing that we want to make sure that we reiterate here. And what that means is, in the home selling process, there's 118 variables from A to Z. If they're handled correctly, that puts more money in your pocket. If it's handled incorrectly, guess what? That costs you your hard-earned equity, period. So you may get to the closing table, think that you had a successful sale. Guess what? You actually left $10,000 or $15,000 on the table. I'm going to tell you in a minute about a guy who potentially left $60,000 on the table if he wouldn't have come to me. So I explained to you how that works, what that means. So what we did, reverse engineered every single of those variable points and create a proactive system that gives our client basically ultimate competitive advantage to that process, and make sure to manage every single one of those variables. For sellers, it's a guaranteed sold system. The only proven system sell homes twice as fast and for up to 21% more money than traditional methods. And also for the buyers out there, our unfair advantage home buying system only proven system get you priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers before anyone else, including most real estate agents, and also get you access to the best financing. We interviewed the mortgage brokers and lenders, found the most aggressive ones who lend the most money for the best rates, and obviously we're able to match that up with the client depending on what type of property it is. So who you use matters. Their system they have in place matters, and the fact is 99% of agents don't have any system in place to give you that competitive advantage.
Well, we are just scratching the surface here in the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. A lot of information to get to, so are you taking notes yet? If you aren't, you should be. Well, if you're not taking notes and not a note-taking kind of person, that's fine. You can call Blake and get more information about what you're hearing here today. Call him at Sloan Realty Group, 843-808-SOLD, 808-SOLD, or you can go onto the website at blakesloan.com. Coming up next, we'll look at some of the real estate information that's going on in the area and the region, and also look at the latest numbers as far as mortgage interest rates are concerned. It is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Hey, it's your friend Sean Hannity. Now, if you own property in Myrtle Beach, the national marketing plan of the realtor that you choose is absolutely critical. Now, that's exactly why you need to talk to Blake Sloan at Sloan Realty Group. Now, Blake has a marketing system on a whole different level than anyone else in Myrtle Beach. It's so effective at capturing local buyers from around the world that he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you agree to, or Blake's going to buy it. While most agents rely on yard signs and open houses that attract the occasional buyer, Blake attracts hundreds of buyers each month, which creates demand and helps your property sell fast and for top dollar. That's why, on average, Blake sells a property every single day of the year and is ranked among the top 100 agents in the entire U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Now, working with Blake is risk-free. If you're not happy, Blake gives you the freedom to cancel your contract and pay nothing. So give Blake a call today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or just go online and see Blake's interview on NBC at Blake'sGuarantee.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corcoran. To sell your home on time for the most money, you need a sharp agent with a marketing strategy that creates the most demand. Bottom line, you need a partner willing to put their own money on the line for you. In Myrtle Beach, I would hire Blake Sloan. His international marketing creates so much demand that if your home doesn't sell at a price and deadline you agree to, Blake will buy it. Partner with the agent I trust. Go online or call and get your home sold.
It is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. The most important number you need to know, interest rates, mortgage rates, that's coming up in just a minute. But before that, we want to look at what's happening in some of the real estate market. I know you said you're waiting on some of the latest numbers, but there's still a lot to go over.
Yeah, for sure. We have waiting on the new local numbers. We got some awesome, I'll kind of nerd out the numbers, right, as usual, but we got some awesome national numbers we just got in. Quick recap for anybody that missed it before. We finished up last year locally. Single-family home sales are up 15.6% compared to 2014. Great news, right? Double digits. We actually outperformed the United States there. That's a good thing there. Median sales price is up to $208,000, and it's at 6.6% increase. So that's year over year. House values went up 6.6%. Great news, right? That's kind of the other part there. The average list sale price ratio is up to 95%, which is really good. It was like 91, 92 when things were kind of slow a couple years ago. That's great news. Condo sales are also up 8.7% year over year, and that's kind of a really good thing. Median price there basically is at 114, kind of pretty flat in regards to it. It decreased the last part of the year, but it's up 1.8% from that part. So good news there. What's the key numbers we look at here recently? Is national numbers, right? How is it performing nationally? That kind of gets into who's buying, consumer confidence, things like that we kind of go through. So just got a recent report out, and it kind of talks about where we're at now, how we should feel going into 2016. And it talks about, resilient U.S. economy with solid growth. Basically, here's the key numbers, right? Existing home sales were at the highest pace at 5.26 million sold last year since 2006, right? So that's huge. So what that means is nationally, home sales for the first time are back up to where they were in 2006. Anybody remembers what 2006 was like? That was right there during that time of the peak, right? Oh, yeah. So that's huge numbers for everybody to kind of know about. And so that's the first time there. We've been there. Here's the next key part. And pending home sales, right, which is anything that's under contract. So put my house in the market, Joe and Mary Smith came, they were to offer on it, we're waiting for it to close, right? So pending home sales is at an average 108.8, the highest annual reading since, you guessed it, 2006. So what do these numbers mean? It allows us to forecast where we're at here and what's going to happen going forward, right? So that's kind of one of the things that's important. And also, we factor into that the home builders. So new numbers came out from National Association of Home Builders, and the finalized December report with housing starts and permits, right? The 2015 total is finally in 1.11 million, basically up 10.8% in 2015. So that's great news there. It's basically a lot of consumer confidence, obviously builder confidence, be able to invest that capital out there to build that. Single-family home starts were up 10.4% to 715,300. So that's really good news. So what's everybody saying is going to happen? 2016 as a whole. All indicators are pointing that this spring is going to be the busiest since 2006, right? So that's key, and that's what we're seeing right now. And we talk about that. We're inventory. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is one of our biggest challenges right now. Here's kind of thing of who's basically dominating this is older millennials, people in my age group, 25 to 34, and this demographic has potential basically to claim 1/3 of home sales in 2016, potentially 2 million purchases. So what do you think that we're planning right now from a strategic standpoint? Guess who we're capturing going towards? Those millennials, right? So it's key for your agent, whoever you choose, to know who in the heck they're going towards, because who's buying, right? If you're marketing towards ones that aren't buying, it's not going to be able to get that. So it's a key point for us to get both there. I'll kind of go through a couple things. It kind of breaks down existing home sales, what areas perform the best. Overall, existing home sales up 7.7% nationally. The highest basically increase was 11.9% in Northeast. The Midwest was second at 9.9%. The West was 8.9% increase. The South was only 4.6%. But guess what? We outperformed that. We are at 15% increase in sales last year. So that's really good numbers. And that means we're outperforming pretty much all those, including we're double actually what the national increase in those sales were. So that's a key point there, right? Average days on market in our area of South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina is showing 90 days. Which is great. We're actually a little bit longer than that in some areas, depending where they're at. Here's a key number we'll talk about that's really important. How many days is it taking right now to close a loan? If you guys remember, in the old days, it was always 30 days, right? We'll write a contract up. Right now, whatever date, it'll be the same date a month later. Not possible. In the past few years, ever since the crash, underwriting's got more, lenders are a little more, scrupulous in how they check things out. So now it's taking longer to get, loans done, where let's say last year, it was around 46 days, 47 days. In November, December last year, 49 days to close a loan on average. So ideally, you want 45 to 60 days to close this loan. If you're a seller betting on this, your agent doesn't know what they're doing a 30-day close here, guess what? You're going to put yourself into a pickle if you're buying something else. You're trying to do simultaneous closings and things like that. So that's kind of something. It's the key number here. It's the longest time needed to close a loan since February 2013, when things were so basically it got really dragged down. It's kind of back up. Obviously, we talked about in previous shows, the new TRID regulations is kind of what has really put a big wrinkle in both lenders and also closing attorneys' processes as well. So that's kind of one thing here. One other key fact nationally, new home sales are selling fast. Basically, they're selling an average of 3 months. Basically from medium months to completion sold. So basically they're getting sold in 3 months. November, December, both 3 before is running 4 months in June, July last year. So those are kind of some key numbers to kind of go over and know. The one key thing that we're seeing nationally, months of inventory for sale. So statistically, anything less than 6 or 5 months, it tends to be a seller's market, right? Nationally, the inventory dropped down from 5.1 and 5.2 months of inventory to 3.9 in December. We're seeing the same thing. We're not quite that low yet, thankfully. I have friends and stuff in Dallas and different parts of Colorado and California. They'll sell things in a matter of hours, right? Same thing we're seeing in Boston a lot right now. So what's happening is inventory is a challenge. We're going to see that increase more. Like I mentioned, I know from being in different mastermind groups with people I network with across the country, we're usually 6 months behind what happens in Florida, parts of California, and certain other pockets that we kind of know what to watch. So housing supply has gone down as far as inventory levels, basically since July of last year is when it started going down, all the way through December. And so that's kind of the one thing where it's down 3.8% nationally in December. We're seeing the same exact thing here in our area. Kind of a key number, check this out. So what's the foreclosure inventory by state? Ours at South Carolina right now is only 1.2% of inventory. It's just crazy. So there's hardly any foreclosure out there. If you go back to like our YouTube channel, some of our my news interviews 5 years ago, I said, once we finally get this inventory out of here, all the distressed inventory, what they were doing is they were holding on to it. It was a shadow inventory that was bleeding everything dry, so we couldn't fully recover, right? So.
I heard you talking about that from the time we started the show. You've been talking about it forever.
Exactly right. So that's the one thing that finally got bled out, and that now they're starting to see that full recovery in values and prices, and now it's kind of, and there's all kind of things that are going on where they're selling mass pool sales of thousands and thousands of properties at the same time, and they finally got that backed up, but that goes way back to after 2008, 2009, there's a lot of pressure from the federal government for banks to kind of not flood those or go through that process, which we can do a whole show on just that too, right? So that's kind of important. Here's a key number I want you guys to really know. Percent of buyers that are first-time home buyers. So basically, according to a recent index, 57% of all home buyers were first-time home buyers. So that's a great, great thing where you got to think interest rates being so low right now, which we'll talk about in a second, they're able to get a house basically $500 per 100,000. It's actually a little bit less than that, but now you can get a $200,000 house for basically $1,000 a month, and that's a lot less than mostly renting in most areas. So that's kind of something to look at and see from that standpoint. We're also seeing rents that are continuing to climb. So that's kind of an interesting part to kind of go over. The forecasted change, they're seeing kind of year over year. They're looking at basically 2.7% increase in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. North Carolina's seen a 4.0. They're projected, I think, will outpace that based on what I'm seeing here. And obviously, Corona were able to do that. So those are kind of some interesting numbers to kind of go over there. A lot of cool stuff that we can cover, but those are kind of the main pieces from that standpoint. If we have any time at the end, I'll kind of jump back into that. The next key thing here is interest rates, right? So that's not a big thing. Guess what? We just hit a 52-week low. And I think that's because we had a huge, the stock market dropped 300 points one day this past week. So that's something that everybody's put money into the bond market, which in turn affects the mortgage market, right? So we just hit a 52-week low again, 3.55%. We are at the 52-week low right now. So if you're thinking about it, you've been on the edge and you've been looking, now's the time to jump on that from that standpoint. 30-year fixed rate right now, 3.55%. It was just a couple of days ago, 3.61. 15-year fixed rate right now, 2.90%. It's right at a 52-week low. 30-year FHA loan, 3.25%. A jumbo 30-year loan, which is right anything over $417,000, is at 3.41%, and a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage right now 2.85%. Every single one of those loan amounts I just gave you are at the 52-week low right now. So part of the reason I'm pumped up today is this, because we've got massive sales happening, right? Rates are really, really low. It's a huge opportunity for anybody out there thinking about buying. Just to give you an example, last week a 30-year fixed rate was 3.76%. Now we're at 3.55. So it's at a 52-week low right now. Everybody's kind of basically jumping back into real estate too. We have a lot of investors looking at multifamily properties, looking at buy, rent, hold strategy properties, instead of getting hammered into the market continually going forward. So that's great news for sure for everybody out there. I guess we can take a quick break and come back.
Yeah, sure. We got a lot of stuff still to get to here during the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show, including the Hot Buyers Alert. That's coming up in just a second. If you have any questions about what you've heard so far, again, get in touch with Blake at Sloan Realty Group. Call him at 808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. You can also go through the website, blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. It's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
You want your home sold on time and for the most money without all sorts of excuses? Hi, it's Lebeck, and when I had to sell my home, I went through several agents who all had good ideas, but bottom line is they could get the job done. Well, you have a celebrity in your own town. If I lived in Myrtle Beach, no question, I would call Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Blake has a marketing system that reaches buyers from around the U.S. and around the world, and week after week, he attracts hundreds of buyers. That creates incredible demand.
You're going to have maybe like 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, cool.
You'll agree to, or he's going to like. Plus, you don't really risk using when you listen to Blake. If he doesn't live up to the contract, you walk away free. It's really no wonder why Sean Hannity and I, along with real estate tycoon and Shark Tank star Barbara Gorberin, endorse Blake. Call Blake Sloan right now, 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or visit Blake's website, that's blakesguarantee.com. Blakesguarantee.com. Or listen to Blake's Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WRNN.
It is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Talk to Blake again in just a second. But first of all, I want to give you the Hot Buyer Alert. Blake and his team looking for homes. They're working with so many home buyers who are looking for homes in the Myrtle Beach area, anywhere in the range between $150,000 to $3.5 million. So if you're thinking of selling, and if you're in that range, contact Blake immediately at 843-808-SOLD. Again, the phone number 843-808-SOLD. sold. Now, if you don't think there are people out there looking for homes, Blake has this website set up, and there are people on there not looking once a week, once a month, a couple of times a year. They have people who are on repeated times, several times a day, looking to see, okay, they want to get the newest thing that's just been put on the market in the Myrtle Beach area. And that number of people just keeps growing on a week-to-week basis. The current number of people who are looking for homes in the Myrtle Beach area on Blake, your website, is at 21,611. That's a lot of people who are actively searching for homes right now and almost hourly.
Yes, this is the thing that when I meet with a client or we meet with a client as a team, we show them blows their mind, right? Because these aren't people, and the first question is, well, they just submit to your website? No. These are people who have an account with us, right? So they signed up. Like right now, searching the site, right now, Al Godwin, he's basically been on the site, 464 visits. Alan and Marty King, 275 visits. Joyce Letchier, 267 visits. Barbara DeCello, 88 visits. So these are all searching the site right now. What they have an account with us, and basically they're searching. What happens with us, my buyer team of buyer experts, they only work with buyers. They're following up with these buyers all day long, every day, serving them, coming from a place of service, and helping them find the right home, right? So we have buyers from all over, Myrtle Beach, up north, a lot of them, China, Dubai, all these areas, and that's because we cast a massive web. We outspend the average agent almost 100 to 1. From a marketing standpoint. And that's strictly to do with my business model, right, where I don't try to do everything. You see most agents, how they operate, you have one single agent trying to juggle all the balls, buyers, sellers, their administration, their marketing, their contract to close, and that's like having the same person at McDonald's do the front register, the drive-through, and the fries at the same time. It does not work well. That's why you had a bad experience. That's why your friend didn't sell their house, right, because the system is not working, right? We call that an 8-track tape, or like a cassette tape, right? Our business model is what we call an iPad 2. It's advanced. It's basically set as a real business. That's what's gotten us featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, all those things because of how we set that up. Now, basically the byproduct of that is I can spend more money to acquire buyer clients, right? To do that, I can be able to spend more money and have time to do radio shows, television, things like that because of how our business model is set up, and it allows us to cast more exposure to, guess what, get your home sold. So that's a key important thing. I want to bring those numbers up because, we look for one thing, results, and results are based on one thing, which is facts. And that's why I want to share those numbers with you guys because it's so important. We have a massive amount of buyers right now. We have way more buyers than there are houses. So we really need inventory right now. If you're thinking about selling, I want you to reach out. Call us. Reach out, 808-SOLD. Don't wait till next week. If you have somebody you know that you talked about selling, I need you to share our information with them and say, hey, look, you need to call Blake. I listen to his show every weekend, and you aren't going to believe the stuff that he has, and I guarantee you will not regret that. And I want to tell you a success story in a second, but I need all our listeners out there to share this message with people that you're talking to, people that you know that may be looking to sell. There's so many people who have horror stories. I mean, literally 80% of the time I talk to somebody, it's a horror story before that. I mean, I'll tell you one in a second. This person listed their house, and it expired 6 months later. They did not meet their agent or talk to him one single time. So this is a $400,000 house, right? So this stuff matters, and so that's the thing that you don't understand. I want to give a really shout out here to one of our awesome listeners. He's probably listening right now, Billy Roberts. He's a listener of our show, and the reason I want to bring this up, he referred us his neighbor. This is what's important, right? Because not everyone that listens to the show, right, we have a certain base, but you have friends, you have relatives, you have people who are going through pain right now that need someone to help solve that problem who's actually efficient and good at what they do, right? So this house that referred to us was listed with another agent, same person. They did not talk to him, and I asked, I said, can you clarify that for me? She said, I never talked to them one single time. And I was like, wow, I'm not really sure. I guess email or I'm not sure. I think and they were very frustrated, and they were when they first met with me, I guess you say standoffish, right? Which rightfully so. And I'm like, man, so I'm hearing these things, and this is like, they just wasted 6 months of their life of a house sitting vacant that's not getting sold. They didn't even talk to their agent, right? So this is why it's important to take that action, maybe get outside your comfort zone and tell the people you know, people that you work with, and tell them, hey, look, take action, call Blake now, 843-808-SOLD, because that's something that's so important. I need you guys as warriors out there to reach out and share the message for sure, because it matters who you use. Here's another perfect example. This is something I'm very proud of. This just happened really as of last night. Guy named Joseph, I won't give his last name. He's a client. He's not listening to a radio show. He came to one of our websites. Has a house. He needs to sell ASAP. He came to me and said, hey, look, I haven't been able to keep it up like I need to. It needs some updates. I don't have the money right now to update it. I need to get this thing sold. I said, okay. I said, what do we need to get for it? He said, well, I need an investor, somebody you know, to buy it out for $100,000. And I was like, dude, we can probably get you a little more money than that. And he's like, well, what do you think? So let's go take a look at it. He said, we can easily get you 160. I can probably get you a little more if you want to wait a little longer. He said, no, I need to sell it now. I said, okay, well, I guarantee you, do 160. He said, well, do 155. I said, all right, we'll try 155. We went there, looked at it, took pictures, had a professional photographer still go because it needed work, and we basically be able to look. So guess what? Listed it last night. I called him and said, hey, look, Joseph, here's the deal. I need you to listen to me right now. I need you to do 160. We basically did 159, 990. Same thing, right? So, and he said, you sure? I said, just let me do it. Change the price up $5,000 in addition, right? So now we're at $60,000 above where he wanted to be, where he would have had an investor buy it out for. And listed it last night, 6 o'clock. We already got 4 showings this weekend, and I guarantee we'll have an offer this weekend. So this dude potentially would have left $60,000 on the table if he wouldn't have been able to come to us. If he'd gone to some other agent who just says, oh, we'll get you $60,000, or worst case scenario, you put it like on Craigslist or do it yourself. You know, you want to save a percent in commission, but you leave $60,000 on the table, right? Anybody can sell it themselves if you sell it for $100,000, right? So that's the key point there. This is another success story. I guarantee you next week we'll talk about how we got Joseph's property under contract. So this happens to me week after week. I think we mentioned a little bit last week. A client of ours named Pat had a previous agent, 6 months, no action, very unhappy, came to us, a listener of our show, thankfully, said, hey, we wish we had come to you earlier. They came to us. Guess what? We said, hey, look, probably need to put some paint in here. Let's touch it up, gingerbread it a little bit, get it where buyers can see themselves as a blank canvas. Boom, guess what? We got it under contract, I think, within a week. So that's another thing, success story. So that's kind of the important part there. And these people are paying 2 payments on 2 different houses for 6 months now before they came to us. So I want to share these stories, and that's why it's so important now, you know, because stories, you know, are most important. We could talk about nerdy numbers all day, but the thing that I noticed the most and the most fulfilling thing for me is when you guys out there listening share our information with somebody, right? Share it with somebody you know. Like, it was so awesome to have Billy, you know, call and say, hey, look, man, I listen to your show every weekend. I want to refer you to our neighbor who's very unhappy and very, you know, basically standoff. So if you're listening, take that chance. Reach out to somebody. If somebody says something, say, look, grab them. Say, look, man, here's the deal. You got to call this guy, Blake Sloan. Don't wait till next week. Don't just give him a thing to Google. Take action. Call us 843-808-SOLD. We can definitely make sure that we're able to reach out and help out for sure.
And it always starts the same way. Almost every one of your stories is saying, Blake, I knew about you and I heard the show, but I went with somebody else, and then all of a sudden after they didn't work for me, now I'm coming to you, and you help them out. I don't know why people just don't come to you.
Yes, I wish it kind of hurts me on the inside. I love it, right? To be honest, I'm like, man, why didn't you just come to me 6 months ago? Because you listened to my show, right? And a lot of times, that's why I say now to take action, right? So it's so important. And here's the other thing: they may have a friend or relative, and also this story a lot. We're not friends anymore. Well, duh, because obviously it didn't work out, right? So that's the key thing. Go with the best. There's a reason we rank top 1% in the world because what we do works, and it's that important for me to get that out to you guys so you can have success and you can get it sold. You're on to the next house without leaving potentially $60,000 on the table. So if you're out there right now, pull over, call me, 843-808-SOLD.
Absolutely. So much. Thank you so much. Awesome stuff as always, Blake. If you'd like to get in touch with Blake, as you said, the phone number there is 808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. At Sloan Realty Group, of course, you can go to the website, blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. If you want to know more about anything you've heard today, give them a call and find out. I'd be happy to tell you. We'll be back again next weekend with another edition of the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake, see you then.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
All right, we'll see you then as well. It's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Hey, sure, Frank,